My trip didn't start out the way I liked. I was supposed to be in Minneapolis on Thursday and Friday for a convention. When we were younger, my wife Martha would take half a day off so that I would have enough good memories to last me while I was away. This time, she just kissed me goodbye on the way to work. My name is Ivan de Badgerwitson, Ibager for short. I am 49 years old and have been married to Martha for 24 years. We have two children, Ross, 22, and Amelia, 20. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I left work and went to the airport. My flight was at 6 in the evening. Because I hate being late or worrying about missing a flight, I always arrive at the airport early. This time, everything went smoothly, and I waited an hour to board. The plane from Minnesota was delayed due to bad weather. A snowstorm was approaching us. After 45 minutes of delay, we finally boarded. Half an hour into the flight, I felt the plane turn left. At first, I thought he was correcting the course, but I soon realized we were heading back. That's right, the pilot reported that due to a snowstorm, landing at the Minneapolis airport was impossible, and we were returning home. Back at the airport, I hurried to the airline counter to reschedule my flight for the next morning. I was lucky to get one of the last available seats. I'll be late for the convention, but I'll still get there. Once I confirmed my seat, I called my contact in Minneapolis and reported the delay. I also left a notification on my boss' voicemail. Then he called home, but Martha did not answer. Although it was just after 8 in the evening, the house was dark and Martha's car was not in the driveway. She probably decided to stay late at work or go to a restaurant. Now that our youngest child had left for college, the house seemed empty. I left my luggage in the car and entered the house. I heard voices from the living room. Strange, I headed there and realized that the TV had been left on. This meant that Martha came home after work because I'm sure the TV was turned off when I left for work. I turned it off and searched the house for Martha. No traces. I called her on her mobile. She answered after a few rings. "Hi, honey," Martha said, recognizing my number. "Hi, honey. Where are you?" I asked. It was such an innocent question. A question I have asked many times throughout our marriage. I didn't ask to pry into other people's business. I just wanted to know where she was. "Where else, fool? At home, watching my soap operas," she answered, as if she had doused me with a bucket of cold water. "And you, how was your flight? Are you already at the hotel?" My brain froze. I'm tired of the delays on the way. All I wanted was to be home with my wife, relax and cuddle with her for a few more hours. Such simple expectations. Despite the flight delay, I felt happy. I was able to spend a few unexpected bonus hours in my bed with my wife. Until those 30 seconds, I was glad to be home. But instead of returning to my beloved wife of 24 years, I returned to lies and deception. I didn't expect this. I didn't know what to do or what to say. Did she really just lie to me? Why would she do this? There was no reason to lie if she was at work or with friends or at a restaurant. My silence must have been prolonged because Martha asked, "Honey, are you still there?" "Ah, yeah, sorry, we landed at O'Hare and I have to go," I said and hung up. My phone rang almost immediately. I didn't answer and turned it off. I needed time to think. Sitting alone on the couch, I felt numb. I tried to understand why Martha was lying to me. Maybe she's preparing a surprise for me. I remember 4 years ago, I also had to lie to her. I was planning a 2-week cruise for our 20th wedding anniversary. I got her boss and parents involved. Over the course of a month, I lied repeatedly, trying to simply skirt the truth. All the lies came to fruition the day we went to Miami for the weekend and ended up at the pier where I gave her a pair of cruise tickets. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find a special anniversary in the coming months. Best case scenario, my birthday and our 25th wedding anniversary are 10 months away. There was one thought that kept coming back, but I stubbornly refused to think about it. Not with us. Others, yes, they encounter this, but not us. That's all. I knew one person who would definitely know about any surprise Martha had planned. My daughter Amelia. Turning on the phone, I quickly dialed her number. "Hi, Dad, how are you?" answered my beloved daughter. "Hi, honey, how are you?" I asked. "Nothing much, Dad. Just finished my homework and now I'm watching TV," she replied. "And you? Have you talked to your mom recently?" I asked. "No, nothing special except our weekly call on Sunday," Amelia replied. "Ah, sorry for asking. But do you happen to know if she's preparing a surprise for me? Don't tell me what. Just tell me if your mom is preparing something," I asked hopefully. "No, Dad, nothing like that. Why do you ask?" "Well, she's been acting weird lately, and I thought she might be hiding some nice surprise from me, maybe for my 50th birthday," I said. "No, not yet, Dad. Didn't we just celebrate your birthday? I think it was last month." "Yes, okay, forget I asked. Good night, honey." "Good night, Dad." Well, that's not true. Why is she lying to me? Maybe this has something to do with her upcoming promotion. Yes, it is. I don't know why she's lying about this, but it's possible that she's still working hard to get the promotion. Working for a promotion, she often stayed late at work. She knew that no promotion was worth our lost time together. She knew that I was insisting that she reduce her work hours a little so that we could spend more time together. She also knew that I was entitled to this, since I myself had turned down a promotion to spend more time with her and the children shortly before our 20th wedding anniversary. Almost 5 years ago, I applied for the position of Vice President of Finance at my company. The only problem was the constant travel to headquarters in Chicago, where board meetings were held, as well as regular travel to all of our factories around the country. I was thrilled when I was offered the job, but Martha soon gave me pause. First, my predecessor got divorced within 2 years of his promotion. He became rich, but lonely and unhappy. My two children still had 2 and 4 years of high school left and still needed support from both parents. Martha didn't want to be the only one involved. We discussed this all week before I realized that I was about to lose the most important thing in my life, my wife and children. I turned down the promotion. That's why I didn't take the last few months very well when Martha started working hard for her promotion. It wasn't the same for Martha. The kids were in college, and there were only two of us left. Her promotion would mean a little more trips, but nothing that would greatly affect our lives. We could probably schedule our trips at the same time to minimize our time apart. The problem was the many hours spent at work for the sake of promotion. Seeing my wife 1 or 2 hours a day all week was not satisfying enough for me, and that's without taking into account the sharp decline in our love life. She even spent many Saturdays and Sundays at work. When she was home, she was just completely exhausted. I'm not even sure when we last made love. 3 weeks ago, last month. We are no longer young, but it was pathetic. So I wouldn't be surprised if she was working when I called and lied to avoid my complaints. Of course, this is unfair, since I also traveled and realized that a little overtime would not harm anyone. Well, there was an easy way to find out. I took the phone and dialed her direct number. "T-Bolt Advertising, Jake Turnbull is listening," my wife's colleague responded. I was a little surprised. They don't work in the same room, and I didn't expect anyone other than Martha to answer. But Jake was a good guy, and he would have told me if Martha had been around. "Hey, Jake, it's iBadger." "Hi, Ivan," Jake replied. He could never use my nickname. "Why are you calling me here when you and your wife are on vacation together?" I definitely went from one surprise to another that night. Vacation? What vacation? "Hey, sorry to bother you at work, Jake. I just accidentally pressed the wrong speed dial button on my phone," I lied. "No problem, Ivan. Just tell Martha that she owes me lunch when she gets back on Monday for me covering her again. You see, I'm at work, and it's well past 9 o'clock in the evening. She owes me big," he said, and then hung up. Martha not only didn't work, she wasn't at work at all. From what Jake said, she took the rest of the week off. Now this was starting to really scare me. Where was Martha, and what was she doing? An uninvited and unwanted thought came into my head. Oh no, can't be. I have always refused to think badly of people. I prefer to be a positive guy, Look on the bright side of things, see the best in each of us. But here I am, thinking about the worst. Could this really be? Could she do this to me? Maybe she is with her sister Nadia. We were in a fight with Nadia and her ex-husband Mike. We were really close once upon a time. We spent evenings together, babysat each other's children, had family events, and even went on vacation together. It all ended one day when I came home with a terrible headache. I took a couple of Tylenol and lay down on the couch. Half an hour later, Marta and Nadia returned from the store. They were talking animatedly and did not notice me. "Have you noticed the new produce manager at the grocery store?" Nadia asked. "Of course he's cute, if I may say so," my wife replied. "And he smiled at you." "He was still smiling after we had sex in my van yesterday," Nadia said. "Oh, Nadia, again," said my wife. "One day you will be caught, and you will lose a good husband and perhaps more." "Don't worry, big sister, I'm always careful," Nadia replied. "It's time to pick up the kids." And they left, leaving me in thought. I have always been a straightforward person, but in this case, I did not know how to do the right thing. I really liked Mike and knew the news of Nadia's infidelity would be devastating. I also knew that he would kick her out of the house without a second thought. Do I want to play the villain and destroy their marriage? I couldn't make a decision until my wife came home with the kids. I was glad that she did not approve of her sister's betrayal, and, showing great cunning, I decided to leave the decision to her. As we were getting ready for bed that night, I asked her about my dilemma. "Honey, I have a difficult decision to make, and I really need your advice," I began. "Suppose I overheard a conversation today and found out that someone close to us was cheating, having sex outside of marriage. What should I do? Should I tell you about it? Should I be angry at the cheater?" Martha looked at me, not knowing what to say. "Well, it may depend on the circumstances. Is it a one-time mistake, or is it a drunken mistake? There are so many possibilities," Martha said. "Let's say it's Mike and he picks up a woman at a bar," I said. "And I know this isn't the first time. Should we leave it at that and say nothing? Should I talk to him to help him change his ways?" Martha suddenly sat up straight in bed and grabbed the phone. "That bastard," she said. "That two-faced son of a bitch. I'll show you what to do, and I'll do it right now. I'll tell Nadia that he's cheating on her." I grabbed the phone from her hands. "Let me do it, honey. It's my responsibility," I said. "Are you sure this is right?" "You can rest assured. I hope she'll kick him out of the house." Martha then turned to me. "And we won't let him stay with us. He can find another place. I don't want a cheater in my house." Luckily for me, Mike answered the call. "Hey, this is your favorite brother-in-law. Sorry for calling so late, but I have something really bad to tell you," I began. "Favorite brother-in-law? You're my only brother-in-law," Mike said. "What's so important that you call so late?" "I overheard a conversation today, and I have some very bad news of world-shattering significance. Your better half is not completely yours, so to speak. Your wife is cheating on you. It happened yesterday, and this is not the first time." Mike was silent on the phone for a long time. "I can't believe it," he finally said, his voice barely audible. "Are you sure you're talking about my Nadia?" "Yes, I heard the confession firsthand. Bragging would be a more accurate description than confession, if you know what I mean. And I heard no sign of remorse. It was like describing a game of hide and seek. I'm very sorry to be the bearer." "Such bad news. I'll let you handle it your way, but don't hesitate to call. We'll be there for you and the kids." "Thanks," and Mike hung up. Martha had tears in her eyes. She smiled sadly at me. "I'm so proud of you, darling. It takes courage to be the bearer of such bad news," Martha said. "Can you hold me? I feel so lost and scared." I took her into my arms and began to rock her slowly. "I wonder if they'll go to therapy," I asked after a while. "I don't think it will do any good," Martha said sleepily. "Once a traitor, always a traitor." "You're right." I was already falling asleep when the phone rang. "Yes, hello," I said, yawning and speaking softly, trying not to wake Martha. "You son of a bitch, what did you say to Mike?" asked Nadia's very angry voice. "Simply the truth. I told only the truth," I said, looking at Martha, who was waking up. "I talked to Martha about it this evening, and we decided it was best to tell the truth, no matter how unpleasant it might be. I can't believe my sister ratted me out," Nadia said, her voice full of venom. "Of course, she would have done it. She was going to do it herself, but I took the phone away from her and decided to tell your husband myself," I said. "We agreed that traitors should be punished, whatever it may be." Nadia began to cry. "But what can I do? Mike kicked me out of the house," Nadia said, sobbing. "Well, if you got kicked out of the house, it's deserved," I said. "But what can I do? Where can I go? Can I come to you?" Nadia asked. "No way. Martha and I discussed this too, and there is no chance that we will offer shelter to a cheater. You are on your own." "I can't believe my sister said that. She loves me," Nadia said. "Martha, what do we say to a cheater who asks to come to us after being kicked out of the house?" I asked Martha, turning the phone towards her and covering the speaker hole with my finger. A sly smile appeared on her face. Her mouth moved closer to the phone. "I don't want a cheater in my house. Get lost, you bastard," Martha said with real pride. I quickly put the phone back to my ear. "I will speak for both of us, and I will only say it once. You are no longer in our lives. Stay away from us. Don't come and don't call. If you want to find a place to live, go to your parents and try to explain to them why you were kicked out," I said, and then hung up. Martha began to hug me tighter. "I'm very proud of you, dear," Martha said. We fell asleep. The next morning, as the old Scandinavian saying goes, chaos began. Fortunately, the children were still sleeping. Martha's father called early and Martha answered. I heard him yelling at his daughter. Martha's smile disappeared and she turned pale. She cried when she hung up. "What did you do, E?" Martha asked. "What did we do, dear? I asked for advice, and it was your idea to tell me about the cheating. Cutting off all ties with the cheater was also your idea, and I completely agreed," I said. "But you said Mike cheated on Nadia." I said, for the sake of argument, let's say Mike picked up a woman at a bar and slept with her. I didn't say he cheated on her. Anyway, what's the difference between Mike cheating on Nadia and Mike cheating on Nadia? Is Nadia cheating on Mike? I asked Martha. "Well, Nadia is my sister," Martha answered. "So you're saying it's okay for her to cheat on her husband because she's your sister. Is this something that runs in the family? Do I have anything to worry about?" I said, irritation clearly evident in my voice. Martha was stunned. "Honey, I'll say this once, and you better believe me. That sister of yours is a bad example for our children. I don't want her around, and I don't want you to have anything to do with her. She isn't welcome in this house and among our children," I said. This was 3 years ago. I know Martha still saw her sister from time to time, but it was a taboo subject in the house. It didn't surprise me that she went to see her sister while I was away and hid it from me. She still wasn't a very nice person, but since Mike had recovered from the drama and was soon getting married again, a lot of my resentment had gone away. I just didn't care about the bitch and was glad she wasn't around. Martha, we need to talk about this. This is not a pleasant topic, but it will make us feel better if we clear the air." I'm sure she felt bad for lying to me about it when I didn't care anymore. I stood in front of a crowd of at least 1,000 convention goers. They were all looking at me, an anonymous crowd with no faces. I took a deep breath and began my presentation. Research shows that in the world of handkerchiefs, there are two types of people. There is the first group, the deniers, people who blow their nose, don't look down, and immediately throw the handkerchief away. And there are people who face reality, they blow their nose and look inside the handkerchief. Someone in the crowd waved his hand, attracting my attention. It was Dave Millicent, Martha's boss. "Yes?" I asked. "Well," he said with a grin, "face this reality. I slept with your wife." A smiling Jake Turnbull stood right behind him. "Me too." The third guy, a stranger, also stood up. "And me too." And he started laughing loudly. No, not really. I just always wanted to say that. And the whole crowd began to laugh loudly. 1,000 unfriendly faces grinned at me. I sat up abruptly on the sofa. Damn, I fell asleep on the couch. I wiped the drool from my face and stood up. I looked at my watch. It was midnight. I must have dozed for over an hour. Maybe Martha came home while I was sleeping and didn't notice me because I wasn't supposed to be here. I went to the bedroom, but there was no sign of her presence. And then I remembered that she was probably with her sister. I wanted to call Nadia and ask about Martha, but realized that although I knew where she lived, I had picked up her children there several times. I had no idea what her phone number was. Or do I know? I took my smartphone, and just as I was about to open my contacts list, I saw the Find Me phone app icon. I installed it on both of our smartphones last year after I lost mine somewhere between New York and Cincinnati. Within seconds, I had the location of Martha's phone. Lake Mills. What the hell is she doing there? Nadia was broke and probably didn't have the money to buy or even rent a cottage in Lake Mills. It was a very exclusive community, with most of the cottages costing several times more than our house. I used Google Earth to pinpoint its location. Its location was not in the village itself, but seemed to be in a very secluded area, surrounded by a large stone fence. What was Martha doing in the millionaire's house? Mills Lake was about an hour's drive from town. I needed to find out what she was doing there. I wasn't ready for confrontation if I was at all, and I needed to find out what she was up to. If I had just asked her, she would probably lie, like she already did. A few minutes later, I was already sitting in the car. The whole time I was driving there, I kept beating myself up for refusing to believe the worst about Martha. I should have immediately looked at her phone's GPS instead of making excuses for her lies. When I came to Lake Mills, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what to expect. I kept hoping for a simple explanation. I drove to the site where Martha was. Hell, there was a huge gate blocking the entrance, and I sure as hell wasn't going to drive up there and call the house asking for my wife. I looked around, and a parked car along the road would be an eyesore for the locals and would certainly attract a police car or security guards working in this select community. I drove a little way before I found a path where I could park the car. I didn't even know how to climb this fence. Then I realized that the property overlooked the lake and that there might be a way to access the property from that side. I soon found pedestrian access to the lake. On the shore, I wasn't even sure which huge cottage Martha was in. I had to check the GPS locator several times. Finally, I reached a large mansion. There was still light on in the mansion, but it was coming from the second floor. The first floor was dark. One curtain was open and light was streaming from that window. I found a tree and climbed high enough to look inside the house. First, I saw a man in a white terry robe. I didn't recognize him at all. He was older than me. He was probably about 60 years old. He went out. A few minutes later, a woman appeared, and I instantly understood why Martha was there. It was Nadia. Her robe was open, and she looked outside, sipping from a glass of champagne. She was naked under her robe. Well, at 40, she still looked very good. She had almost no sagging breasts, and her stomach remained flat. So I was right. Martha was with her sister. I was not surprised to learn that Nadia found herself a rich suitor, knowing that the divorce had hit her finances hard. But I didn't like that Martha ended up in such a company. You never know what can happen to such people. The man I saw first approached Nadia. He hugged her tenderly, his hands roaming over her body. His hands went up to her shoulders, and he took off her robe, which fell to the floor. I would have to climb down from the tree so as not to see my sister-in-law in the full splendor of her nakedness. But I didn't do it. Confused by this spectacle, I was about to go downstairs when the couple moved away from the window. And then I noticed Martha. She was sitting on the sofa in the back of the room with a stupid, drunken smile on her face. My heart sank. Her robe was not only open, it was open all the way to her hips, held only by her waist. A second man approached her and opened his robe. I was so shocked that I took a step back and fell out of the tree. The branches softened my fall, and I was not seriously injured when I landed. Like a zombie, with tears in my eyes, I limped back to my car. I was injured, very, very badly injured, not from falling from a tree, but from falling from the heights of love, from the loss of love. For a few seconds, I thought about rushing to the cottage, kicking down the door, and causing as much trouble as possible. But the idea of spending the next 3 to 5 years in prison for trespassing and assault was not particularly appealing, to say the least. Mixed emotions battled through my head as I walked alone through the night. There are no denials left in me. All that was left was a feeling of loss, enormous grief, and growing anger, which I did not dare to release, so as not to harm myself even more. I knew that even if my anger turned into rage, I would never do anything to physically harm Martha, but I almost did it. I could just go home, pack my things, and leave. Living in a no-fault state, with our own salaries and no minor children at home, divorce would be simple. Split everything in half and bye-bye, bitch. But I needed a little revenge. I played with an idea for a few minutes and decided to give it a try and see how it went. I took the phone and dialed Martha's number. As expected, she didn't answer, and it went to her voicemail. I was hoping she would check my voicemail right after I left a message, just in case. "Hi, dear," I said. "You didn't answer your home phone, so I'm trying to reach you on your cell phone. I just wanted to tell you not to panic when you hear my keys in the door in a few minutes. It was a crazy evening with a snowstorm diverting our plane to Chicago, and then they sent us back here again. They don't know exactly when we'll land, but I should be home in 30 minutes after that." Now she must have heard the signal that she had a new voicemail. Since it was late at night, she must have been curious and alarmed enough to listen to the message at this time. It was really out of character for me. Now she reaches for her phone and goes to voicemail. Let her be drunk enough not to realize that I couldn't use my cell phone on the plane. Now she's in panic mode. She's going to get caught. She's not sure, but she thinks she might have time to jump in the car and get home before I do. At this time, she quickly dresses and probably answers questions from her sister and her lover. I was startled by the ringing of my phone. I did not think about that. It is logical that she will try to find out exactly when I will be home. "Hi, honey. Sorry if I woke you up," I said. It's okay. Are you on your way home?" Martha asked. "I should be there in about an hour, give or take a few minutes," I replied, knowing it would be difficult but possible for her to get home before me. "Will she get caught?" "Okay, see you then," she said and hung up. A few minutes later, I saw her car leaving the gates of the mansion and quickly heading towards the freeway. Crap, she almost drove off the road. She was probably drunker than I thought. It's one thing to play with Martha, it's another to sit here while she might have an accident and kill innocent people. I was angry with her, but not at the cost of the life of the mother of my children. Think fast. Think fast. 911, what is your emergency? I would like to report a drunk driver. A car almost hit me and then drove off, swerving. It just got on the freeway in Lake Mills, heading south. It's a dark blue Ford Taurus, and I managed to write down the last 4 digits. Number 7714. Better stop this car before the driver kills someone. They thanked me for my help and assured me that a patrol car would be checking for the drunk driver. I kept my distance and kept an eye on Martha. A few exits later, I saw a patrol car standing on a bridge over the freeway. As soon as Martha's car came into view, the patrol car pulled out and joined traffic on the freeway. Of course, they stopped Martha. I drove past them. 45 minutes later, I was home. It would almost be funny if it weren't so sad that in one night, the life of one of the people I loved so much became unimportant. I actually had to take a few seconds to think about the possibility that Martha might have died in the accident and the sadness and suffering that would have brought on my children. Nowhere in this was my love for her as a factor in the decision. It's not that I stopped loving her, I just couldn't imagine a future life with her. I turned off the ringer on my home phone and turned off my cell phone. I needed to think. I can't believe I spent the last few hours trying to find an explanation for Martha's lies when the obvious kept jumping in my face. I opened a bottle of wine and tried to figure out what to do. For many years, I believed that my love for Martha would, like fine wine, reach its peak as I grew older, but it looks like it has turned to vinegar. I loved this woman so much that the pain of her betrayal was killing me. No, it wasn't only betrayal that killed me. It was also the discovery of the loss of our love that was killing me. Without this love, I was nothing. I was nothing. This love has defined me for the last 26 years, 24 of which we were husband and wife. Will I be able to survive this? Wouldn't it be less painful to just go to the nearest bridge and jump off it? I never thought I would have to plan a life without Martha. I didn't know where to start. I never made a decision without discussing it with Martha first. Now I couldn't even imagine talking to her. It's simple. My family was my whole life. Every decision was made with Martha and the children in mind. Even our social life was focused on the needs of the family. I didn't communicate much with my colleagues. I attended social events like the annual Christmas party and such, but always went home straight after work. I could count on one hand the number of times I've gone out with work colleagues over the past 10 years. With the children who have now left home, only Martha and I were left. Now it's just me left. I was left alone with my grief. I was left alone, without anyone to love. For the first time alone. Why did she do this to me? Why the cheating when we could have just gotten a divorce, which would have still been painful, but more respectful of all the years and happy moments we shared? When did she stop loving me? Was she just waiting for the kids to grow up and leave? When did she stop caring? I saw the children leaving as an opportunity to focus more on Martha and us. She seemed to see this as the end of the road for us. My thinking wasn't as clear, but now I realized that she probably didn't know how to stop it. Somewhere, I think she still cared about me, unless it was just cowardice. In the midst of my despair, my pain was a connection to life. The pain reminded me of my loss, of the best moments, of my children. I have to think about them. My children saved me that night. I didn't have enough self-respect to pull myself out of the deep well of my despair. My kids did it. Thinking about them helped me cling to a small piece of self-preservation. Ross and Amelia will soon get married and start their own families. I realized that I wanted to be a grandfather so I could spoil their many children. I just won't do it with Martha. I needed to get away from it all before the grief killed me. It won't be difficult, just painful. I know that I will always remember Martha as I loved her. I know that I will also always remember her with another man. I needed to leave the city. I have always been a person of modest expectations. My parents weren't rich, but I grew up in a very loving family. I could do without all the shiny crap I now had. Thinking about everything we had, my things, my car and my laptop were the only things I was going to take with me. The more I thought about it, the more obvious the solution to my problem became. I'll pack my things and disappear. I don't want to see the woman I once loved more than life again. Meeting her would only remind me of what I have lost and my constant pain. I stood up, grabbed a few bags, and started putting all my clothes in them. It only took me 30 minutes. All the bags were in the car in a matter of minutes. It was almost 6 a.m. when I finished packing. Then I slept a little, since I was sure that Marta would remain in the sobering-up station until mid-morning. I slept like a log, and the alarm on my phone woke me up at 9 a.m. After making an emergency appointment with my lawyer, I took a shower, took off my wedding ring, and left it on the table next to the phone. I decided to take a few minutes to write a goodbye letter. We didn't have anything to talk about, but I needed to voice my disappointment. Martha, I should have known you would end up just like your sister, a stupid, passionate, lonely divorcee. Genetics, probably. By the time you read this letter, I will no longer be in your life, and we will never see each other again. I loved you so much that your betrayal caused me unbearable pain. I never thought I could suffer so much. For 24 years of happy life together, and for the 2 children you gave me, I will try to be fair and quick so that you can return to your lover. I only wish that you would have been as fair and divorced me before you started cheating. Did you get paid? The man seemed rich, judging by the mansion you were in. I don't want to see you or talk to you. There is nothing to talk about. My lawyer will contact yours and just sign the divorce papers. I P.S. Fuck you. At 10 a.m. I was at the bank. I paid off our joint credit cards and canceled them. I asked the bank to make a cashier's check for all of our savings and deposits and transferred enough money into a checking account to cover our mortgage and utility bills for the next 2 months. I then removed my name from the joint account. I left the bank with a check for almost $250,000. At noon, I was at work. My boss was surprised to see me since I was supposed to be in Minnesota. He was even more surprised when I announced that I was quitting and leaving the city. My relationship with my boss was special. He became my boss because I turned down a promotion, and at first he was a little embarrassed. He felt he owed me. When he went through a divorce 2 years ago, I came into his office and told him that was the reason I turned down a promotion. From then on, we were more equal partners than boss and subordinate. "Listen, Yi, I have a proposal for you," he said. "I will accept your resignation from your current position, but I will not ask HR to terminate your employment contract and write you a check to your retirement account. Instead, I have an opening at our new optical division in Tucson. It pays less than you make money now, but I heard that you can find a decent place there for a very good price." We shook hands after he agreed to distributeth rumor is that I quit my job. I then stopped by my lawyer and explained that I was leaving Martha, plain and simple. He had to serve her with divorce papers and give her power of attorney so she could sell the house. This will become her 50% share of our wealth. My lawyer tried to get me to seek counseling because he was also a family friend. But he quickly realized that by midnight I would be out of town, out of state, and without my wife. By evening, I was already on my way. I was very tired and stopped at a rather run-down motel around 8 p.m. Hey, what do you expect from a $60 a night motel? All I needed was a place to stay for the night. I dialed Ross's number on the burner phone I had bought earlier. "Hello." "Hi, Ross, it's Dad," I said. "What is this phone number, Dad?" Ross asked. "Well, remember, this is my new phone number," I said. "Any news from your mom today?" "No, why?" "Well, I'm going to have to be honest with you, Ross," I said. "Yesterday, I caught your mom cheating." "Oh, damn, Dad, and neither is she. What are you going to do about it?" "It's all done, Ross. I packed my things, cleared out my bank accounts, leaving her enough until she sold the house. I quit my job and hit the road, heading south. I'm done with her. She will be served with the divorce paper later this week." There was a long silence on the line. "Does Amelia know?" Ross asked. "No, not yet. Everything happened so quickly. You're the first to know. I'm not even sure if your mom still knows that I left her. She wasn't there when I packed my things," I said. "I will call you regularly. Keep me informed." Another silence. "I love you, son. I'm busy and I have to go." "I love you too, Dad." My call to Amelia was just as sad. It was very difficult for my 2 children to find out what their mother did to us. They saw the damage Aunt Nadia caused to her family, and like me, they could not understand that their mother would do the same to us. "I wonder how long she's been doing this, Daddy," Amelia said, always straightforward. "How long has it been since she missed us?" "It doesn't matter, honey. I just wish she would be honest with me and divorce me before she cheated on me. Now it doesn't matter how long or why. All that matters to me is that I loved her, that I trusted her to sacrifice her life, and that she betrayed that trust. Nothing else matters," I said. "Please don't say that, Daddy. Tell me you'll be okay." "I'm fine now. I'm very sad, but I'll get through it if I can avoid any contact with your mother," I said. "I'll let you know where I live." "Can I come see you after the school year?" asked Amelia. I had tears in my eyes when I promised her that she would always be happy to live with me. The Tucson division was small, with only 30 employees, and the regional manager was more of a father figure than a ruthless boss. I loved the instant familiarity with the team, and they made me feel welcome. A month later, I saw a nice apartment. I never communicated with Martha, but I received regular updates from my lawyer and children. Moving on was not at all easy. There were times when it was very difficult. First, my lawyer told me that she was ready to challenge the divorce. She said she didn't want a divorce and was ready to fight this to the end, even if it would bankrupt us both. Okay, I told my lawyer. Forget about divorce. I do not care. This was only done to give her a chance to live on during the 24 years of happiness that we lived together. Just tell her I don't want anything to do with her anymore. Since you are my friend, it will be nice, but I will still bill you $50, my lawyer said. It was a little more difficult with children. One by one, I had to convince them that there was no turning back. The first snag was with Amelia. Dad, Mom went crazy when I told her I was going to live with you this summer, Amelia said. I told her that she and my grandparents would come and visit. She behaved so strangely that I had to avoid using the phone for several days. Martha also reached the end when Ross decided to split the summer between her and me. I never asked about Martha. It was my way of moving on and moving on with my life. It was hard because I still had some feelings for her, mostly feelings about our life before the betrayal. However, the children continued to give me information about her. To my surprise, she seemed to be as depressed as I had been for a short time. It's just incredible after what happened to her sister. It's simple. You cheat. It hurts the people you're supposed to love. It ruins your marriage, and you move on with your life. How could she be depressed when I was trying my best to make sure she could move on without my presence? Her refusal to get a divorce seemed like a way to avoid facing the fact that her behavior had led to the destruction of our family. Stupid, isn't it? I was in denial for hours. She's been in denial for the past 2 years. Knowing that the children spoke to me regularly, she used them to apologize for her behavior. From the information provided by my children, I learned that this was the first time that she allowed her sister to involve her in a sexual adventure. I didn't really believe it. She apologized to the children for her betrayal. She admitted that this was intentional, that she knew well what would certainly happen if she went with Nadia, her lover, and his male friend. She told the children about her shame, remembering that evening. She had cold feet for a while, but decided to drink heavily to ease her shame and guilt. When she received my voicemail about my imminent return to the house, she had just finished a blind date. She believed that I would make peace with her if she took long enough to atone for her betrayal, and if she could let me know that she loved me. She tried to convince me through her children that she would do anything to show me her love. I knew that the children hoped that I would make peace with her, but I couldn't find the strength to even think about talking to Martha. It was also hard for them because I lived so far away from their mother because they had to make a choice, her or me. Martha always asked the children to tell her where I lived. All she knew was that it was in a southern state. Almost 3 years after I left her, she finally found out where I was. One day, while leaving work, I saw her walking around the office. I was confident in my children, so I didn't know how she managed to find out the city in which I lived. I knew from my children that she was sure that I would change my mind if she met me. I definitely wanted to change her mind about this. She didn't see me because I left through the side door. I grabbed the phone and dialed the number. "Hello, Louise," I said. "Remember what I told you about my ex-wife? Well, she's here and she'll probably follow me home. Be ready. See you in a little while." I managed to walk within Martha's line of sight so she would follow me. As I pulled out of the parking lot, Martha followed me. I wandered around the city a little, stopped at a grocery store, and then headed home. When I arrived home, I pulled into the driveway of my condominium. I didn't have to get my keys out as Louise, a very pretty Latina in her early 30s, opened the door to let me in. 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Louise, holding the 12-month-old baby in her arms, went to open the door. From my vantage point in the kitchen, I could see the surprise on Martha's face. "Yes?" Louise greeted in a heavy Spanish accent. "How can I help you?" "Hi, I'd like to talk to Ivan," Martha said. "And they came to you," Louise shouted. As I walked out of the kitchen, feigning surprise, Louise handed me the baby. "You take care of your daughter while I finish dinner," Louise said. I took the baby and turned to Martha. Well, I can't say I never expected this, but it's still a surprise," I said, sarcasm dripping from my voice. You know, I have to thank you for what you did. Martha looked at me, speechless. If it weren't for your betrayal, I would never have moved to this part of the country and would still be living in the cold, surrounded by concrete in the Northeast. Now I live here, I have a wonderful mistress, and I am starting to build new family memories with Louise and Tamarita, my little daughter. Martha cried openly. After all this time, my grief and anger disappeared. I was tempted, as a sympathetic person, to console her, but the feeling passed. I was on a mission. So, Martha, what do you need almost 3 years later? I asked. I had to listen carefully to what she was saying, as it was barely above a whisper. I needed to apologize. I needed to tell you how sorry I was for what I did and how much I hurt you. I needed to tell you that it's not about you, it's about how I became stupid. I should have told you that I loved you then, no matter what, that I love you now and will always love you. You were the best husband and father a woman could ask for. I just turned out to be a cheap bitch for destroying me. Her apology touched me. It's time to end this farce as soon as possible. Well, there was no harm done, I said, pretending to be in a good mood. It's all in the past, as they say. So much time has passed that I can confidently say that I forgive you. I wish you a very happy life, I said, looking at Tamarita in my arms. She smiled. A life full of love like mine. Tears streaming down her face, Martha muttered something, came up to me, hugged me for a moment, and ran out of the house. I closed the door behind her. Louise came out of the kitchen and took Tamarita. I leaned against the closed door and let my tears flow. Louise hugged me with all her heart, kissed my forehead, and took the phone. I better call Horatio and tell him I'll be home soon with his daughter, Louise said. Thank you, Louise, I said, and tell Horatio I'm expecting you 3 at the barbecue on Saturday. Of course, boss. See you at work tomorrow. The following week, my lawyer received Martha's signed divorce papers. I've definitely moved on, but at my own pace. I had several girlfriends, I had sex with only one, but nothing serious. I think I'm finally getting over what happened to me. I definitely became less guarded when a woman was near me. I know that I must give Louise carte blanche to set me up with a nice young woman, and now I believe that I will do so. However, after this visit, I began to doubt. My doubts were not that I left Martha, but I always thought that we had nothing to talk about, that she knew exactly what I thought about cheating and how to deal with it. But after hearing a little from Martha, maybe I should have confronted her back then, even if I always hated confrontation. I know one thing. It was better for me to just disappear the way I did. I loved her so much that if I had met her then, I probably would have believed her repentance and accepted her apology, and he would probably live a miserable life of mistrust before going through with the divorce anyway. But now, 3 years after her betrayal and our life together, Martha's apology helped me feel like I could finally move on. This was the closure I needed. I can let go of my pain and start believing in love again. One day, I might even tell her that I don't have a second daughter. Possibly, but I doubt it. I don't owe her anything anymore. End. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.